Thriving at Nature's Pace with my mum. It's about a new approach to climate change. And mum thought, we share it with people for the reading. So we're going to get started along. Uh, and mum's 90, about to be 91 soon. And she can't see too well, which is why we're reading it. Why I'm reading it to her, so it gives me a good chance to spend a bit of time with her every day, just like 5-10 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes. I come over here. I don't live too far away, about an hour and a half walk, but I often get the tube first thing in the morning, because otherwise I have to get up very early. But I was thinking that I should get up very early. Mum, I'm going to clean your mouth a bit. You got a bit of food there. Yeah, there you are. So we are in the chapter about the way forward, and we've been talking about how the existing climate agenda really isn't working and what it means. And one of the things that we need to think about is actually the oil and gas and coal that we use, and how we can think about returning what we don't actually need to use back to nature in some ways. And that opens up a way to think about oil and gas and coal companies as people who can actually help us do that. And before we go on further with that, there's a good point to make the distinction between understand which oil and gas and coal we can actually return. So there's stuff we need, like the one that run the train, the underground train that got me to mum this morning, and we obviously can't stop that. Then there's the stuff we need to make the changes to not being dependent on them, or be dependent on them, and we need to have those. And then there's stuff after that. And the stuff after that really refers to how we can think about what we need and all the rest. And by marking them out to think we need to return them, it basically allows us to recognize that's something we need to do. It's not something that we get to do when we're ready, because we'll never be ready. We know that. It's like me in the morning, say I'm going to get up early in the morning. It's not going to happen unless I make an appointment, or actually to do something earlier that forces me, that I can't keep pushing away. So that's what this is about. That's what the new approach is really about, actually marking out what we need to do so that we already are doing it. Then we can't, allow ourselves to slip. So this is a scene. This is an interesting part here. And in this section, I like this section a lot. It's a fictional part to what is largely a non-fiction story. So it starts with kind of imagination. So in the Imaginarium, which is kind of like a parallel universe that you imagine. So more people are joining. We're going to say hi again. So it's my mum, Eleanor. It's me, David. And we're going to talk about my book, Thriving at Nature's Pace. I'm reading it for mum. It's a new approach to climate change. That's basically based about from India. So this part is an imaginary story set in India about our near future. So I'm going to get going. So yellow, blue, and green Thrive logos readily identify businesses and services. Within shops, people pay with Thrive coins by tapping their electronic wallets bearing the same logo. The logo is of two people welcoming a third. This is the Thrive community, and it's saying, come and join. Come and join. It has been decades since the first coal company issued Thrive contracts. It was an experiment to sell the coal reserves one lump at a time. They sold coal that was deep in the mine, so it was still in the ground. Bhubaneswari had the idea that there may be more money to be made by not extracting coal. It ended with creating an entirely new direction for the company. When the idea was first touted, the climate movement was in trouble. It was on the verge of collapse. Indonesia had left the Paris Agreement soon after the US. India soon followed. It left as the UNFCCC's climate goals became clearly incompatible with the country's own climate change-driven energy needs. Extreme temperatures started lasting longer. There was no longer a cool season anymore. It was hot all year round. The country urgently needed to provide air conditioning for its 1.5 billion people. Health deteriorated even for the healthy. Kidney failures became commonplace among office workers and school children. Similar things started to appear in other countries. It was all a surprise. Nobody had focused on healthcare in their preparations for climate change. It had all been about green jobs and renewable energy. In the end, it's the mundane things that breaks the camel's back. There was one positive. Stray dog attacks in Mumbai completely disappeared. The heat became too much for the semi-feral animals. After India pulled out, and with the US and other countries having already left, climate activists became angrier, and people just became more depressed. That's when Bhubaneswari, a young service engineer for MC Coal, suggested selling the coal that was still in the ground. Aditya, the head of the company, did not get it, just kept saying, "Why? If people want to keep coal in the ground, they don't need to buy it," he said. "What idiot's going to pay money for something they're not going to use?" It took Bhubaneswari many more tries. Bhubaneswari kept saying, "What if there are people who will pay?" She just kept asking. Her future was ahead of her. She figured, why not? Aditya finally got it. It didn't matter if people buy it or not. The business is not affected. It would continue just the same and make money. But if there were people who would pay, then it would make even more money. The why then became why not. The company will still be selling coal. It's just that they can sell more coal without the hassle of having to dig it out. You think we can get the same margin for them? That was Aditya's final question. Mentally, he had already committed to saying yes. Kids from the local school were the first to buy. They heard about it from their older siblings who were working for the coal mine. The class was learning about climate change and how, back in the day, people had called on keeping oil and gas and coal in the ground. The first order came from a class project. Rashmi suggested the class make t-shirts printed with "We kept it in the ground." They would back it up by buying 1 ton of coal. On the back, they would print a map of where the coal is. They inquired about the price, and Aditya gave them a discount. 1,000 rupees for 1 ton, but only for 1 ton. Bhubaneswari and Aditya lined up with the whole class for a photo. They presented to the class a map of the mine and a pin locating their ton of coal, which will always stay in the ground. Photos were taken of them signing an agreement. The whole class signed and made a killing selling t-shirts. The t-shirts became a thing. Orders started coming in for more contracts to keep coal in the ground. Bhubaneswari suggested calling them Thrive contracts and created a social media profile. As the providers of the contracts, they reached out to all the people who had contacted them about it. They attached a link to the map and presented people with a token coin for committing the coal in the ground, and it went viral from there. It became so popular that questions started coming in from the government. Just how much coal was being locked away? Were they really never going to dig it out? What's this about a coin? Lawyers got involved. Was illegal. The energy minister was clear. Every unit of energy this removes, if you cannot prove that the country can do without it, you are guilty of treason. And I will personally make sure there's an extra day you will spend in Tihar jail. That put an end to it, but the orders kept coming. The wannabe buyers kept asking, "Why have you stopped?" Bhubaneswari, ever the entrepreneur, decided to give the problem to the potential buyers. She created a challenge. Prove you can really do without the energy, and invited those who entered to judge each other's entries. The company can say it was only responding to demand. She figured that if enough people entered, the minister was not going to put the whole world in jail. As a prize, she stated that 1 million people entered. The winner could reopen the Thrive contract market. The whys became why nots. Responses started coming in. The initial ones were ridiculous. But gradually, like Bollywood dance sequences, the ideas got better and better. Then it got serious. Engineering firms started to get involved, and major consultancy firms put in entries to boost their reputation. It became a class exercise in management courses. How much energy does a project's whole life cycle actually use, and what can be done to reduce it? It became a dinner party game, a variant of I Spy. What energy can you see being used that you can do without? The competition caught the imagination of the world and morphed from fantasy to reality. A formula started to appear. People, businesses, and communities began to audit their energy use. They started with what they wanted to do and then looked at what they did. Then they weighed what they did against what they wanted to do and looked at it again in terms of energy. People and communities started making distinctions about what they genuinely wanted to do and what they did. Innovation started on how to do things to show that they can be done without energy. And then the Thrive market reopened, and businesses started using it to prove their point. There were businesses that completely changed their processes. They replaced automation with real people. It turned out that humans could do things better. They didn't need electricity, and the grid kept failing anyway. No day went by without some sort of power cut. No week went on without blackouts. For businesses, keeping machines running actually lost money. The workers could figure out how to keep themselves cool and make things work. They kept their jobs. Aditya's company became far more lucrative, helping other businesses as an energy auditor. The company helped businesses become good businesses. Bright minds sought them out. Entrepreneurs wanted them on their boards. Banks and investment funds paid to have their names on projects. The minister who objected resented all this. He threatened the company over and over again, but eventually he got old and retired. The replacement came from a different generation. On her first day, she brought her original "We Kept It in the Ground" t-shirt and framed it on her office wall. She made energy auditing a requirement and awarded Aditya's company with the first official contracts. The Thrive community grew and logos started to appear. The coin started to be used widely to buy everything, from groceries to paying for services. It was a tangible symbol of solidarity. Two people coming together, welcoming a third, thriving at nature's pace. For a while, Aditya's company still produced coal as they used to, that is, by scraping it from deep gouging holes and pushing it to people who wanted it. Gradually, it became clear that this had to change. With more people buying Thrive contracts to keep them in the ground, those wanting to use coal had to compete. Thrive contracts became the way to reserve coal for extraction as well as to commit in the ground. Those who wanted coal to be kept in the ground objected at first, but then it became clear that they themselves still needed to use it. They bought Thrive contracts to reserve the coal, then they bought more Thrive contracts to sell to nature for Thrive coins. That became a roadmap for coal for the mine, and everybody used it to plan their own choices. The role of the company morphed and became more purposeful. It started using money it got from Thrive contracts to open innovation labs. They called these Thrive Labs. It was a very practical way to bring talent together to experiment and innovate, and allow a ready input of ideas to develop into novel businesses. Communities went there to experiment. Students went there to learn. And businesses went there to spot talent. They were rowdy places, chalkboards, whiteboards, incessantly nerdy conversations, and blueprints. Climate change continued to worsen. The heat became so bad many people died, but still the labs buzzed with imagination. Innovations became inventions, and inventions became products. People found new ways to face challenges. For Bhubaneswani, much older now and with things more uncertain, she felt the Thrive Labs kept her young. When she was there, she felt she had more energy than when she first started. Life was exciting. That's that. So, thank you for staying with me and reading my book, Thriving at Nature's Pace. Please recommend it. I'm reading with my mum. That was a section in it where we talked about this imaginary future of how a coal company can make money by selling coal and not digging them out. So as I thought about that, and everybody's lives got better because they became more imaginative and more innovative about what they did and more purposeful about the things they did. Mum, what do you think?
It's just like buying shares.
It's like buying shares, except you don't have to go and destroy the planet for it.
Yeah.
So it's like buying things and actually having a permanent value because the planet is permanent. So thank you very much. That's for me, David, and my mum, Helena.
Bye.
And thank you. I hope you have a great day. Thriving at Nature's Place. Please recommend it. Bye-bye. Yes.
Kotakle, Jabu.